Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're taking the historically grounded, kind of heavy insights of renowned author Robert Greene, and we're translating them into a highly practical playbook. Because, let's be honest, navigating human nature and actually seizing personal power can feel incredibly nebulous sometimes. If you've ever felt like the world is constantly pushing you to just blend in rather than stand out, well, you're exactly where you need to be. We're going to decode the deep psychology behind power and mastery, taking these abstract concepts and turning them into absolutely essential tactical survival skills.
To do that, here's our roadmap for the day. First up, we'll look at philosophy for real life. Then, we'll dive into the alchemy of skill building. Third is the danger of absolute certainty. Number 4, the psychology of reputation. 5, why you need to embrace your unique weirdness. And finally, number 6, the privilege of pressure.
All right, let's hit part 1, philosophy for real life, moving beyond mere data to actual practical living.
So, we really have to ask ourselves, how did modern thinking become so intensely obsessed with data, quantifiable metrics, and dry scientific journals? It feels like we've completely lost touch with the blood and dirt reality of our day-to-day lives. I mean, think about it. If a brilliant thinker like Socrates walked into a university today, modern academia would probably laugh at him for being way too subjective. But the thing is, true philosophy shouldn't just be these ethereal, abstract formulas. It absolutely has to have a direct connection to how you wake up, how you breathe, and how you navigate a messy Tuesday morning. It needs soul.
And the solution here lies in this really fascinating concept called negative capability. This term was actually coined by the poet John Keats to describe the sheer genius of Shakespeare, and it is the epitome of true practical wisdom. Basically, it's your ability to embrace the ambiguity of human nature instead of just frantically rushing to find a rigid black and white answer. Shakespeare's characters feel so incredibly real because they aren't stick figures, right? They hold both good and evil at the exact same time. When you can hold two completely contradictory thoughts in your head and just observe them without instantly slapping a judgment on them, you unlock a massive competitive advantage when it comes to creative thinking. Which leads us nicely into part 2, the alchemy of skill building, how we rewire the brain through accumulated experience. Now, if you've ever felt totally lost in your career, this timeline of Robert Greene's own chaotic early life is going to blow your mind. It perfectly proves that accumulating seemingly random skills silently compounds over time. For literally 18 years, Greene was wandering in the wilderness. He tried his hand at journalism, but absolutely hated the short-term focus. He wandered around Europe, taught English in Spain, and even worked in Hollywood, where he really resented the lack of creative control. He felt utterly miserable and aimless, but looking back, journalism taught him how to write under intense deadlines. Hollywood taught him deep research and how to frame things theatrically. All of these entirely unconnected skills were quietly preparing him for an opportunity he literally couldn't see yet. And that opportunity finally arrived when he met a publisher in Italy and pitched what would eventually become the massive hit, The 48 Laws of Power. So, the crucial takeaway here is that acquiring skills isn't just about padding out a resume to look good. It goes way deeper than that. As neuroscience studies, like the ones out of UCLA, have shown, intense learning and directed thought literally change the physical matter and the connectivity of your brain. When you don't have any real skills, life just feels like endless confusion. But when you build deep, accumulated skills, even if they seem totally unrelated at the time, you're laying down incredibly rich soil in your mind. When the right opportunity finally strikes, you are physically, neurologically wired to execute on it.
Moving right along to part 3. The danger of absolute certainty. This explores why stupid people are often way more dangerous than evil ones.
To avoid completely catastrophic failures in life, leaders absolutely must cultivate this specific ancient concept known as phronesis. Essentially, it's practical, balanced wisdom used to actually navigate the real world and deal with real people. When folks lack this, they become blindly, dangerously certain. Just think of the sheer arrogance that destroyed Athens during the Peloponnesian War. Their leaders thought this massively complex invasion would be a walk in the park simply because they didn't bother to think it through. The reality is, ignorant, overly certain people cause vastly more harm in our world than intentionally evil ones ever could. You can see this clearly when you compare the cynic and the innocent. Stupid, absolutely certain cynics are fundamentally more dangerous, and honestly, way more miserable, than those who just embrace a sense of childlike wonder. The cynic assumes the absolute worst, thinks they have all of life figured out, and ends up trapped on this narrow, blind monorail. But the innocent, they maintain the boundless curiosity of a kid. I mean, Albert Einstein famously said his own genius came straight from his ability to keep asking questions, just like a child would. Retaining your capacity for wonder isn't just a happier, lighter way to live. It's a significantly more intelligent and strategic one, too.
All right, part 4, the psychology of reputation. Let's look at the invisible gambits of power.
You see, real power isn't just about raw data or performance metrics. It is entirely about mastering invisible social rules. Think of it kind of like a high-stakes game of poker. You don't always win based on the cards in your hand, right? You win on the psychological intimidation of your previous bluffs. If you've built a reputation for being truly formidable, you literally win battles before you even step foot in the room. But for this to actually work, it has to be ironclad and consistent. If you are constantly shifting your values or your personality just to please whoever's in front of you, you're going to look weak and soulless. You have to maintain the optics and fiercely protect your narrative.
You absolutely must internalize this profound warning. One single false step can completely ruin your standing. And unlike money, true credibility can never ever be bought back. We see this all the time today, don't we? People posting reckless things on social media, totally forgetting that the world is constantly watching and judging. If you let your reputation slip even a little, you become vulnerable from all sides. Suddenly, even your very best work is viewed through a tainted lens. So guard your credibility with your life. Let's transition to part 5. Embrace your unique weirdness. How to become totally irreplaceable in a hyper-conformist world.
Here is a blunt, uncomfortable reality. If you are replaceable, you will be replaced. It's just a fact. This means your only real defense mechanism in a ruthless environment is to lean heavily into the biological uniqueness that makes you impossible to copy. Take someone incredible like Temple Grandin. She was born with severe autism. But instead of torturing herself trying to fit into a normal, standard mold, she leaned completely into her incredibly unique way of perceiving the world. And because of that, she became a brilliant, entirely irreplaceable academic. Look, you have a unique genetic code, distinct tastes, and very specific quirks. In today's modern economy, standing out isn't a risk, it is your ultimate armor. Those strange little quirks of yours, they are literal signs from your core. Trying to water yourself down to be an average, perfectly acceptable avatar is a guaranteed recipe for both failure and deep unhappiness. When Robert Greene was getting ready to publish The 48 Laws of Power, his publishers actually begged him to change the book's bizarre formatting. It had these crazy margins packed with extra text and historical quotes, and they just wanted it to look like a normal, everyday book. But he flat out refused. He embraced the oddness. And guess what? Because it was so uniquely weird, it became an absolute cultural phenomenon. Stop smoothing out your rough edges, guys. Those edges are exactly what people will eventually love you for.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 6, The Privilege of Pressure. Engineering stress for monumental achievement.
Consider this absolutely wild historical example. Thomas Edison completely intentionally backed himself into a massive corner by making a huge public claim to the press. He boldly told reporters that he was going to light up the entire city of New York with the incandescent bulb in exactly 5 years. Now, behind the scenes, his employees were absolutely terrified because they barely even had a working prototype. But Edison knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that this immense, crushing public expectation would quite literally force his team to execute.
By doing things like this, you actively simulate the evolutionary survival pressures that our brains desperately need in order to hyper-focus and achieve the impossible. Think about it. Our brains evolved in brutal, ancient environments where avoiding a predator required extreme, sudden bursts of creative, fast thinking. By setting a hard, very public deadline, you create a sort of barometric pressure inside your own mind. Suddenly, your eyes pop wide open, your blood is pumping, and a task that would normally take you months miraculously gets done in a matter of days. Honestly, boredom is vastly more dangerous to your potential than stress ever will be.
Building on that, immediate success is actually kind of a curse. Look at the rapper 50 Cent. Very early in his career, he was shot, and his record label completely panicked. They dropped him and shelved his entire album. It was a devastating, massive failure. But instead of letting early success make him soft or arrogant, this brutal setback taught him a vital lesson. Never rely on corporate gatekeepers. He took his music straight to the streets through mixtapes, made zero compromises, and built an absolute empire. If he had just succeeded easily at age 20, he might have been a forgotten one-hit wonder. Early failures would force you to build the strategic resilience that lasting mastery requires. Ultimately, facing these immense, crushing challenges and pressures allows you to tap into something truly profound, known as the sublime. It's this extremely rare emotional space where deep awe meets a sense of dread. It's kind of like looking up at an infinite starry night sky and realizing just how tiny and insignificant you are, but still feeling deeply physically electrified by the sheer beauty of it all.
When you push yourself to your absolute limit, when you risk failure and unapologetically lean into your unique weirdness, you enter this sublime state. You aren't just coasting or merely existing anymore, you are vibrantly, electrifyingly alive.
So I want to leave you with this final crucial thought. You now have the playbook. You know the invisible psychological rules of the game. You know that your weirdness is actually your greatest weapon, that your failures are just fuel, and that the very pressure you've been running away from is exactly what you need to forge your own greatness. The path to power is right there waiting for you. The only question left is, will you conform to the comfortable, boring mean, or will you have the courage to embrace the pressure and unleash your unique mastery?